Hey, Facebook world. It is Rachel, Dawn, and Jenny.
Hello.
So we're here for hashtag Real Talk with Rachel Dawn, episode 3. What we're talking about tonight, or the title of tonight's Real Talk is, Are You There, God? And what do you do when you feel like God is silent or distant, or you can't hear from him, or whatever? So there are probably people on here in all different areas kind of with this. So Jenny and I were kind of talking beforehand, and what I realized was that what I mean by this and kind of where I am is I have learned to hear from God already, and I have then after that gone through seasons of my life where then I feel like I'm not hearing from him and he's silent. There may be people on here who have never heard from God before in their lives. And so that's where you're at. And maybe you're questioning if you can hear from God and how do you learn about that. So I think we'll end up getting into some of that. But anyway, so let's get started. So first of all, can we talk about something? I know I said this earlier today. I went live from another page and I just said, can we talk about something? That life is hard and that this faith thing is hard. And sometimes, even when we are being the most obedient that we know how, it's still really hard. And we feel like God isn't speaking and God's being silent and whatever. So that's what we're going to dive into. So I am going to tell a story from my own life of a season that I went through that this happened to me. And then I'm really, really excited for you guys. So don't go anywhere. Make sure that you're here the whole time. Make sure that you are saying hi in the comments. I see Rebecca is watching. What's up, Rebecca? Good to see you. But pop in there. Let us know you're here. Say hi with your name or whatever so we know who's here. Just keep doing that throughout the video. But I'm going to tell a story from my own life, and then I'm really excited for you guys to get to hear Jenny's perspective on this topic this week. And so it's going to be some real talk, and it's going to be awesome. So we're going to have a discussion about something that she's going through currently, right now in her life. And so stick around till the end. Thank you for that. Hey, Cody, you're there too. So 2015 is the year that I call the year that God stopped talking to me. I've blogged about it several times, but there was basically in that year, there were really high highs and then there were devastating lows. And what happened in that year was, so I'll just kind of give you the highlights. So that year, Barry and I bought our first house, which we're sitting in now. So we bought our first house. He quit his job and went into business with his father, which is like kind of a good thing, kind of a scary thing. It happened really not at the right time. It happened a little premature. So it was good that he got out of his job because that was a really stressful situation for him. But, maybe it wasn't the right time for him to go in business with his dad. What else happened? There were other things that happened that year. I launched my public speaking career and felt like I had no idea what I was doing. And so there was the stress of that. And then all of that happened, just so you guys know, in like a 3-month time span. So that many stressful situations happening in a very short period of time is not conducive to health and wellness. Let's just say that. And so what happened, if you guys have ever heard me talk about the issues that I had, the health issues that I had a couple years ago, or my gallbladder issues, that's what happened. So basically my body was so stressed out for so long that it almost broke my gallbladder. Turns out you find out that thing is there and that it has a purpose when it's not working right. And so, but all of it kind of came to a head in that New Year's Eve 2015. So wait, let me not get this. Let me tell the details right. So before New Year's Eve was like the pinnacle. So in the months leading up to this, so we moved into our house in August, and almost immediately after we moved into our house, I started having these symptoms that I didn't know I had no idea what was going on. I saw my doctor about it at first. He thought that I had an ulcer, so that's what he had diagnosed me with, and then he was treating me for that, and I kept having the episodes. And so let me explain to you what I mean by a painful episode, or what I learned was called a gallbladder attack. So what happened was my gallbladder basically got full of gallstones, and one of them kind of like snuck out and got stuck in this tube that leads from your gallbladder into your digestive system, and that's a really big deal, and it's very, very painful. So then anytime that my gallbladder would be working, it would just be crunching around that gallstone, and so it would cause this excruciating pain. I have a pretty high pain tolerance, I think, and this...
I've given you massages before.
Right. I mean, it's up there. I'm tiny, but I am mighty. And so this was, I mean, I was in the fetal position, like, on multiple occasions. So what would happen is, a lot of times it would happen at night. So, like, I would get into bed and it would wake me up maybe a couple hours into my sleep. It would be so painful I couldn't sleep through it. I tried taking Advil. I tried taking, like, you know when you, like, get dental work done or you have surgeries or whatever and you have all the painkillers left over? I took all of those. I took all the painkillers we had, like Vicodin, Percocet, I mean, all of them. I tried all of them. Nothing touched, it didn't even touch the amount of pain that I was in. I found out after the fact that the type of pain that I was experiencing, when you go into the hospital for it, they actually treat you with morphine. That's how bad it is. So I would end up in these episodes where I couldn't sleep, and so it would last for 4 or 5 hours. It was kind of a rise and a peak, and so it would get worse and worse and worse, and it would kind of peak out and plateau, and then I would feel it lightening, and it would go down from there. And so that would last 4 or 5 hours. So every night for months, I was getting 3 or 4 nights of sleep. Not every night. It would happen maybe 2, 3, 4 nights a week. So I wasn't getting any sleep. So add that to the stress that we were already in, and Barry and I were fighting a lot just because of the stress that we were under, and so that doesn't help. Adding more stress doesn't help. And so anyway, so all of this was going on. And along that period of time, after the pain didn't go away, after my doctor was treating me for an ulcer, and then I called him at 2 a.m. again, like, hey, I'm in the fetal position again, and we're about to go to the emergency room. He said, I don't think this is an ulcer, and I need you to go get an ultrasound and see if it's your gallbladder. Well, literally within like 24 hours of that conversation, 2 other people asked me if I had my gallbladder checked, and so clearly that was the Holy Spirit, like, making it clear, like, hey, this is real life. And so so I went and had my gallbladder checked, found out that's what it was. And so then I found out, hey, there's a surgery that you can have to have your gallbladder removed, and this will fix it, and it'll go away, and it'll be awesome, and then I'll be like back to normal. And so I met with a surgeon, and I was going down that path. Well, then again, within about 24 hours, hey, Meemaw, hey, Morgan, I see more people popping in. It's good to see you guys. So within a very short period of time of that happening, 2 other people spoke to me, and it was very clear that God did not want me to have my gallbladder removed.
I don't know if you counted me as one of those people, but do you remember when you came, I was like, please don't get your gallbladder removed.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So add another one. Because it was very clear, like, hey, you know, like, it's there for a reason. I feel real uncomfortable. That's better. Yeah, so you know, Talaria was one of those other people too, and she's like, you know, it's there for a reason. So if you have it taken out, then it's not going to be able to do what it's supposed to do. So anyway, God tells me that I'm not going to have my gallbladder removed. So I'm like, okay, no big deal. Great. If you're telling me that we're going to leave it in there, then this obviously means that you're going to heal me supernaturally. And this is going to be such a cool story. It's going to be such a cool testimony. And I'm so excited. Yes, God, I'm on board with that. Let's do it. And so I'm thinking this supernatural healing is going to happen instantaneously. Did not happen like that. So it was actually another 9 months, or the full time span was not, I don't remember. Anyway, it was 9 months before the healing manifested in my life. And I mean, I had to completely change my diet. I went to eating absolutely no fat, because, fun fact, your gallbladder actually processes fats and processed foods. And so I had to eat really, really clean, cut out really anything fake or processed or convenient. I had to cook all my food and like not use any oils or butter or anything like that. No dairy, no peanuts or anything from a nut, because that's all oil. Yeah, so I had to cut all of that out. So literally for like 9 months I ate rotisserie chicken and baked fish and steamed vegetables. It was delightful. But anyway, so walking down that path and doing those things, you know, I am being obedient. I'm doing everything step by step, everything God's telling me to do, everything He's leading me to. You know, I'm doing all the things. And so I feel like, okay, God, like this should be happening, and why isn't it happening? And in that span of time, I also did 4 or 5. I did 5 because I did that one, like I tried to do it fast. It doesn't do that. When you try to do the shortcut version, it doesn't work, in case you're wondering. So I did 5 liver and gallbladder cleanses or flushes. It came as a recommendation along that period of time, and I got a holistic. I mean, God brought all these resources into my life to make this happen. So I was following all those things. So I did these gallbladder cleanses that involve an even more restricted diet. And on the 5th day, you don't eat after 7 p.m. You drink a glass of Epsom salt, and then you drink 5 ounces of olive oil.
Did it once.
Just let that sit in for a second. Like actually think about what that would be like to put olive oil in your mouth and have to make it go down your throat. So I did that 5 times. So the first time I puked, that's a whole other story. But anyway, so I did that, flushed out all the stones. Well, every time that I would do a cleanse, I would go back in for another ultrasound, and it would still show that stone was stuck in my
Bile duct.
Bile duct. I was like viaduct. That's not the right word. That's something to do with an interstate.
Same difference.
So anyway,
that's where they got that from.
Yeah, it's a passageway. So anyway, so it was still stuck. So and so this whole time, I'm giving you guys a lot of details that probably aren't important, but I'm used to telling this story this way. But the whole time, I'm going to God and I'm saying like, hey, I'm being obedient. So if it's not manifesting instantaneously, that's fine. Like, tell me then what I'm supposed to be learning. Like, tell me what you want me to learn in this season. And understand, you guys, for those of you who don't know my whole story, hi Amanda, hi Dirk, I saw you log in. I'm glad to have you guys here. So for those of you who don't know my whole story, so I grew up in the church, but I really didn't start having a relationship, like a personal, intimate relationship with God until after my divorce. So I was in my mid to late 20s when I really met God, if you will, for the first time, and started this true, intimate, real relationship with Him. And so with all of that came Him starting to talk to me and teach me things, and I would hear His voice, not audibly. So when I talk about hearing God's voice, I don't mean that I hear like a booming voice out loud, because I don't, but I hear it in my head, and it's plain as day to me that, oh, that's God talking to me. Sometimes I hear things that I think, was that God or was that me? And, you know, I have to kind of figure that out. I actually blogged about that too. In 2014 was the year that I learned really how to discern God's voice in my life. So check that blog out. It's called Discernment and Hearing Tim's Voice, if you want to read about that. But anyways, I also tell that story in my book too. But anyway, so I don't hear His voice audibly, but I do hear from Him. And so during that season when my faith was new and fresh, and I was hearing from Him and learning from Him, and everything was just so constant. And so this was the first time really since starting my relationship with Him that I'm going to Him for answers and I'm not hearing anything. And it was very crushing. It was confusing. Has anybody ever been there? Like, tell me, like, you guys can comment as I'm talking, like, tell me where you are. Like, are you in a place where you've never heard from God before? You don't know if you've ever heard from God before? Are you in a place right now where you know you've heard from Him in the past, but is He silent right now? Tell me about that, because we'll talk, we'll kind of engage in some of the comments too. But hey, Heather. So yeah, so it was very painful and it was very confusing. And I engaged in a lot. I mean, it was like legit battle at that time. It was legit warfare. That all the nights that I was up in writhing in pain, that I literally couldn't sleep, I would be laying face down on my bathroom floor or on my bedroom floor or in my basement or something like that. And I just started playing worship music, and I would sing and I would worship at 2 a.m, 5 a.m, whatever. And I had this conversation with the devil, the enemy, whatever you want to call him. I was like, hey dude, like that's fine. If you're going to attack me and you're going to keep me awake, this is what you're going to get out of it. And so this is what you get, so that's fine. I'll play this game with you. And so that's what I would do. I would be up all night worshiping and praying to God and talking to God. God, just show me what you want me to learn. I'm happy to learn whatever you want me to learn in this season, but just tell me what that is. I'm on board with whatever it is, but let's talk about it. Like I need to know what it is, and I need to know why this isn't happening as quickly as I want it to. And silence. I wasn't getting any answers. So that had gone months and months and months. And then New Year's Eve comes, and I'm still dealing with all the gallbladder drama, and our basement freaking floods, you guys. Let's talk about it. So our basement floods. So instead of going out and celebrating New Year's, ringing in 2016, we're soaking up our carpet and cutting out drywall, and it was ridiculous. Were you here? Were you out of town? Where were you?
I hadn't moved in yet. I don't believe.
Oh, that's right.
It was right after.
I think you were. Right.
Because it happened again.
Right. Well, twice, right? I don't remember how many times. We'll stop talking about that. But anyway, so our basement floods, and I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, it was kind of like this, the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back. Like, that broke me at that point. Hey, Shauna, good to see you. Thanks for commenting, Dirk. I'll get back to you. Maybe Allie and I can talk offline about that stuff if she's still dealing with it. Because I have answers for her. But anyway, so New Year's Eve, all that's going on. So then New Year's Day comes, and you know how, like, New Year's Day, you sit down on your couch and you write out all your goals for the year and you kind of reflect on the last year and how did it go? Well, here's how my 2015 went. It super sucked because 2015, like, my one goal for 2015 was to publish my book. And here it was, New Year's Day 2016, and my book was still in a 3-ring binder. And so it was not published yet. And so I felt very defeated. I felt angry. I felt like another year had been wasted. I'm feeling all these things. And so I went from crying to God, from crying like, God, like, don't you see me? Don't you see me being faithful? Don't you, just teach me, just talk to me, all the things, to angrily shouting at God. And what I said in my blog about this was, in particularly colorful language at times. What that means is there were F-bombs. It was me yelling at God in this very space right here, in this room, in that living room, this kitchen. Like, dude, what the F? Like, I have done everything you have told me to do. Don't you see me being obedient? Don't you see me? Don't you see my heart? I can't do anything more. Because here's what I know. That when we go through seasons where we don't hear from God, one of the things that you'll start to think, okay, so one of the things that it's your enemy comes and whispers in your ear is that the reason that you're not hearing from him is because you've done something wrong, that he's mad at you, that he's not talking to you, he's turned his back on you, and that you're being disobedient. Sometimes, if we are being blatant, like knowingly disobedient, God will distance himself from us. He never goes away. You never lose God. And I don't even know that I would call it distancing. It's just that when you're in a place of disobedience, your ears aren't open to be able to hear from him. Let me put it that way. That's more accurate. And so, all that stuff was happening to me. And so the first place that I went was, God, did I screw up? What did I miss? Am I not listening? Was there something that you told me to do that I missed? And let's fix it. Let's get on it. Let's do it, dude. Let's handle this. But really, like purely in my heart, when I looked at myself and I examined really what was going on inside of me, I truly did not feel like there was any disobedience, that I was doing everything that he was telling me to do, and my heart was pure in that. And so that wasn't the answer. But I get it. Like, if you're there, maybe spend some time examining that. Maybe spend some time talking to God about that. Because one of the things that I heard years ago is, if you're in a season where you feel like you're not hearing from God, that you're asking him, like, what do I need to do next? What do I need to do next? Or what do I need to do now? Or whatever, and you're not getting an answer, go back to the very last thing that he told you to do. And that's probably your answer. So God is walking with us and leading us and guiding us. And when we get to a place where he tells us to do something and maybe we're like, no thanks. I don't really want to do that right now, or I don't feel like doing that, or maybe I'll do this instead. And then we go further down that road and we're like, oh God, why am I not hearing from you? Well, because he's still waiting for you back here, right? So then you go back to the last thing that he told you to do, and there he is, and then you guys move forward together. And so I told you this funny story. This is kind of an aside. So I wrote about this in my blog, that one of the things that it's like real churchy, like those church signs that say, feeling distant from God? Who moved? You or him? And I'm like, thanks for all that extra guilt and condemnation, church sign. That's exactly what I need right now. Yeah, no. I was like, no, really, like I haven't gone anywhere. Like I am right here doing what he told me to do. And it's miserable. Like I don't want to be drinking olive oil, but I'm doing it because I know that's what he told me to do. And so it wasn't disobedience. Here's another thing that I'm going to talk about right now. Here's another lesson that we learn in this season. Sometimes when God doesn't answer your prayers, I'm going to tell you guys the rest of my story in a minute, kind of
I'm just making notes. Sorry.
How it ended. But let me teach you guys these points right now. So, and this is something that I just I don't know that I just learned it, but I just read this book, and you guys have seen me talking about this book and writing about this book, The Circle Maker by Mark Batterson. So in here, he talks about how sometimes when God doesn't answer a prayer right away, even a promise from him, we try to manufacture the miracle and answer it for him. Can you raise your hand if you can think of a time when maybe you try to manufacture your own miracle? Like, I don't know, marrying the wrong person. Been there, done that.
Buying the wrong house?
We're not there yet, Jenny. We're not there yet. So has there been a time in your life when you tried to come up with, when you're like, God, like, do this for me, please do this for me, or like you hear from God and he gives you a promise and he's like, I'm gonna do this for you, and then you're like, hey, I've got this really great way that we can get this done, like, quicker. I have an idea, yeah, like quicker, let me do this for you, God. I do that a lot. I live in this space, I live in this struggle. Especially right now, I am super in this season, guys, and I'm sure we'll talk about this more in the future, but I'm in this season where, like, I am asking God to take things off my plate. I'm asking God to make my burden lighter. We talked about that in the last Real Talk video about that prayer that I had at the beginning of the year, and God telling me, like, hey, I'll carry those things for you. So I gave him all those things. And then, when things pop up in my life, I'm like, okay, let me have that back. Let me handle that for you. And so I do that a lot. And that's this tension that I'm living in right now, is telling God, like, I trust you. And then when it hits the fan, it's actually letting him handle it instead of me trying to come back in there and handle it myself. Does anybody else do that? So that's what we do. We try to manufacture an answer or a miracle for him. But this is what Mark Batterson says: when you try to do God's job, it always backfires. So let's talk about a time. There's a story in the Bible about Abraham and Sarah. If you're not familiar with it, totally cool. I'll give you guys a quick recap. So Abraham was this really faithful man that was walking with God. And when he was very old in age, he was 75, when God made him a promise that he would make him, quote, a father of many nations, and that his offspring would be as numerous as the stars in the sky. And at the time, Abraham and Sarah didn't have any children. And so Sarah, his wife, actually laughed about it when they got that promise, because they were already so old. And so what happened in that season is Abraham and Sarah just decided they were going to manufacture the miracle for God. They're like, oh, we know how babies are made. We've got this. Let us handle it. So Sarah tells her husband Abraham, hey, go sleep with my slave girl, basically. She's fertile and young. So go sleep with her, get her pregnant, and then you'll have a baby. And like, this promise from God will be answered. Well, that's not exactly how God was looking to answer that promise. And so what was birthed out of that was they did have a child. Abraham and this maidservant had a child, and his name was Ishmael. And Ishmael means, I just read this, Ishmael means works of the flesh, or something to the effect of that. So basically, like anytime you're trying to manufacture the miracle. So I kind of use that term like birthing an Ishmael. Like anytime that I get myself into a situation because I'm trying to handle it from God, like I'm trying to handle it instead, I've birthed another Ishmael in my life. Rather than waiting for that promise, which was Isaac, which was this perfect child. And so So that's what Abraham and Sarah did. Now, what did I do? I wrote this down. It was 25 years, you guys, 25 years from the time that God made that promise to Abraham and Sarah until Isaac was born. 25 years. Now, in between there, they had Ishmael, and I think I read it was 14 years from the time they had Ishmael until they had Isaac. So they waited, they were real faithful for 9 years. They held in there and they waited on God to come through, and then they came up with their own solution 9 years in, and then it was still another 14 years before Isaac came. And Isaac's name means laughter because Sarah laughed when God made them that promise. I just think that's fun. But anyway, and so here's another fun fact. This is not politically correct, so just know that we're going down this road right now. That did you know, another fun fact, that from the lineage of Isaac comes the entire Jewish nation, the 12 tribes of Israel, all of God's people, and then, down from there, from Ishmael came Islam. So the fact that Jews and Christians and the religion of Islam are at odds with each other and have been since that time, that's the difference that's the ramifications still today. Global terrorism, all because Abraham and Sarah, couldn't wait on God's promise. Okay, so understand when you get into working things out on your own and trying to take things over from God, there are going to be consequences. And I want to save you guys from that. Mark Batterson tells a story in this book about how he and his wife were waiting on God to provide them finances for something. I don't even remember what it was. And so he came up with this. So he's waiting on God to provide. And then all of a sudden he came up with this business idea. It was like an app or a program or something like that. So he designs it. He sinks 10 grand into it. Lost all the money. Lost 10 grand. Just flushed it down the toilet. Because that wasn't the way that God was going to bring that promise to fruition. That was him trying to manufacture that miracle for God. And so don't do that. That's all I can say about that. Just don't do it. And understand, and we'll talk about this more when we talk about kind of your story, but wait on God. It sucks and it's hard, and we want answers sooner than later. And but it's better. It's always going to be better when you wait on God. What he is going to bring is going to be so much better. And it's cliche and you hear it all the time. When God is giving you a wait as an answer, he's not holding out on you. He's not doing that because he doesn't love you. He doesn't care about you. He's just trying to torture you. He's doing that because he has something better down the road for you. And so if we'll just wait on God and be patient and not try to manufacture the miracle, then we will see great things. So again, I'm going to tell you guys the rest of my story at the end. Let me read you the rest of this quote by Mark Batterson. There are always consequences. It always backfires when we try to do God's job for him. But, he says, if we repent, God always recycles our mistakes. I need you to get that part because that's so important. Because I heard Steve Furtick say one of the hardest things about faith is that we can believe for God to get us out of a mess that he's let us into, but it's really, really hard for us to believe that God will get us out of a mess that we've walked into ourselves, we've caused ourselves out of just obedience or stupidity or whatever. But I need you to know that
come out of plenty of them.
Right. That even if you screw up, even if you make the wrong decision, even if you try to take things over from God, he can redeem and recycle and bring good out of. In fact, that's a promise that's in Romans. I believe that God will turn everything around for good for those who believe in him. So just understand that he can fix it. So yeah, that'll go along with what you're talking about. So Jenny, you have mentioned in a couple Real Talk videos about how you've been waiting for God to give you a house. So
Yes.
where are we at with that right now?
So I've been here for 15 months.
Jenny lives at my house, for those of you who don't know, and it's awesome.
Yeah. So I've been looking for a house for 15 months now, and there was a lot of, when I started living with Rachel and Barry, getting to know God and praying a lot and believing that the house would come when I wanted it to come, or when he was going to give that house to me. So I was patient. Yeah, and it does suck waiting. It really sucks. So I get really mad and I yell, and then I don't believe in him anymore. And then I have to come back to Rachel and ask, why should I believe in God? Really? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've done it a couple times.
Right. Well, and you said, this is why I was so excited for you guys to hear from her. So let me let you guys in on the kind of the behind the scenes of what happened earlier today. So I'm prepping for this talk, and I asked Jenny, hey, are you going to join me tonight for Real Talk? And she's like, well, what's the topic again? It's about you not hearing from God. And I said, yeah. And she goes, well, that's the season that I'm in right now, and so I don't really know if it would be that good for me to go on there. Like, kind of feel like this could backfire, and it might be a little too messy. It might be a little too much. I'm probably not going to say, basically, these weren't your words, but kind of what I was hearing was, I'm not going to say what you want me to say, Rachel, because I'm not in that. I'm not in the happy place with that. And I said, no, that's exactly why I need you on the video. Because what I know is there are going to be more people on the other side of that screen that feel exactly like you feel right now. That I'm not hearing from God, and to the point that I don't even know if he's real anymore. You guys, I've been there. And you're not alone if you're there right now. And that's real life. I mean, you're going to have, I think that you're going to have seasons when you get there. Especially early on in your faith. And so just understand you're not alone. That doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make you a bad Christian. It doesn't mean, what I get when I go through those seasons, when I feel those things, then I beat myself up and I feel like, well, I should have more faith in this.
Well, yeah. And then you try to overdo stuff. You try to, I should pray more. Oh, I should do this more. Like, to try to get something out of it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then you feel like, what a phony. Mm-hmm. What? I'm such a phony. Because now that I need help, now I'm going to do all of these things. I'm going to pray all the time. Right. I'm like, do I really believe in God? And now I'm going to pray all the time, hoping to get something out of it? Mm-hmm. Like, come on, show up.
Right. Right. And
so I don't have my house. And I'm like, I had a house that I thought I was going to get in the neighborhood, or going to get in the neighborhood. Who knows? But it's fallen through so many times. So I just kept looking and looking and looking. And as I'm looking all these months and still not getting any answers, house after house is falling through. I'm not getting anything. And I'm pissed. So I go over to a house I'm cleaning, and I'm pretty much crying to him. Like, I don't think I believe in God anymore. Because I've been waiting for this house for so long. And
no house.
No house. So, and I'm pretty much crying while I'm cleaning his house. And then I get in my car, and I'm like, God, if you just want to show up in my life and be there and, like, want me to believe in you, which is, like, a give and take. Yeah, I still feel phony about that, too. Like, give me a house. Where's the house? Right. Show up.
Right.
I've been waiting so long. And, yeah, so then I come across a condo, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I finally got a condo, and I'm really excited about moving into the condo. And then Rachel and Barry come to me and say, we don't think that's for you. We think you're supposed to have this house that you've been waiting on forever.
Yeah. Well, so then the conversations that we're having tonight was, I just asked Jenny, I said, do you think that, and I didn't know what her answer was going to be. Do you think that you were trying to manufacture a miracle by getting this condo instead of waiting on God for this house. So let me tell you guys about this house. So Jenny and her son Clayton live with us, and Clayton comes to our house after school because he's just young enough that he still needs to kind of come home to somebody after school. So he comes to our house, and I mean, we love Clayton. We love having him around, and this house is just like 5 houses down from us in our neighborhood. So
which is perfect.
Yeah, it'd be perfect.
Thanks, God.
So
Thank you for giving me the perfect house that I'm.
Right. It literally would be perfect. So they'd still be in the neighborhood. He could still have his friends. We would still be able to see each other all the time. And so literally, like, when did you first see that house? Was that like
last August?
So like a year ago.
Yeah.
Dang. So like right after just a few months after she moved in here, that house went up in the market. It was a foreclosure situation. It was a whole thing. But Barry and I, my husband and I, both felt so very clearly and strongly like, oh, that's Jenny's house. So literally, like, every time we walk by it, we're like, there's Jenny's house. There goes Jenny's house. Let's look. So there was this period of time where the house is just in disarray. The yard was all grown up, like field length grown up. And so we're driving past it, and I told Barry, and I said, hey, Jenny should go over there and mow that grass in that yard as a way to, like, as an act of faith or obedience towards God, to say, like, I believe that you're giving this house to me, that you're holding this house for me, and I'm being a good steward of this gift. And Barry goes, I already thought about that a few days ago. And here's something, this is what I said to you. A lot of times the way that I know that God is talking is when Barry's thinking the same thing. Like, when we have the same thought, that's not a coincidence.
Yeah. Well, then I said, oh, I already had that thought. I was going to go mow that yard.
So when we told her that, she said, I already had that thought.
Yeah, but then my thinking is, I'm a positive person. I kind of do that stuff anyway. Like, so, is that God talking to me?
Right.
Like, this is the season I'm in. I'm going to question all of it. Is it my positivity because I usually pull the positive out of everything?
Right.
Or is it God talking to me?
Right. So what I said to her was, hey, Jenny, I'm not that person.
She's not that person.
So
she would never.
That was probably God. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say that was definitely God saying, yeah, this is something that you need to go do, and this is going to be an act of obedience. And so she did. She went and mowed that yard. So again, like, we are, like, as a household.
Then it goes up on auction after I mow it.
Right. Then it went up on auction. Then it got, well, listen to this. So there's like a whole saga. And I love that. So the whole time I'm reading this book by Mark Batterson too, like, as all this is going on kind of towards the end. And he tells 2 different stories in here about properties that God held for them and saved for them for like a year or 2. And they all stood in faith on it, and they walked circles around the house. So I've been out there. I've walked don't tell the neighborhood police or whatever, but I've walked circles around that house, like, claiming, like, this is Jenny's house, and this is, God's going to give it to her, and God's holding it for her, and that's what Mark talks about doing in his book, and God came through in all those situations. And so Barry and I are believing, like, this house is for Jenny, and this is definitely going to happen, and it's going to be such a great testimony, because that's the thing, you guys, is when we're praying to God, like we pray for the things that are going to make us happy and comfortable, and God's priority, not that he doesn't want us to be happy. I don't want you to hear me that God doesn't care about your happiness, because he absolutely does, and he wants you to be happy. But when you're praying, your happiness isn't the first priority that he has. He wants your growth to be the number 1 priority, and what's going to bring glory to him. And so we're just excited about how cool of a story this is going to be when God comes through and he gets this house, and it's going to be so awesome after all these roller coasters. So it's sold, like, at auction, it's sold. Somebody bought the freaking house.
Rachel's not telling me about the stuff that she's so excited about. I just gave up on God at this point.
Right. But I didn't know that.
But she's super excited.
But I didn't know that.
Waiting for the big and
I didn't know that because you were gone a lot in that season. Just, like, she was here when Clayton was here, and then, like, she's been spending time with other friends, so she hadn't been around the house a lot for us to have conversations. And so all these things that kind of we're believing for and we're standing on for her, she wasn't really on the same page. And that's another thing that we talked about earlier, because Jenny, well, so you were in, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but basically you were saying, like, I'm in this place where I'm doubting if God is even real, because any answers that I get, I can just explain away.
Right. I can justify
as coincidence or positive attitude or whatever.
Just take the positive out of everything.
Yeah. Because what did you say about how, like, there are people who don't believe, who aren't believers, that when things happen, they're like, oh, that was just positive energy and karma and all that stuff, and that's how they explain it away. But then people who are believers look at that and they go, well, that was obviously God. And she's like, I don't know where I am in that. I don't know what.
Because I feel a phony in either place.
Yeah, that's what you said.
Yeah, I feel like a phony because, like, I feel ridiculous for believing in God and letting people see that I believe in Him. And giving that to him, like, oh yeah, that was God. Like, oh yeah, you're one of those people.
Right.
Like, yeah. So then it's almost easier to say, yeah, it's my positivity. So which one do I want to go with? Like, so show up. Like,
right.
Show me something that that's past my. I'm a positive thinker.
Right. Yes. So we didn't have those conversations. So then she puts this offer in on this condo. She gets the condo. I get a text from Barry, like, while I'm out of town, like, oh yeah, Jenny's got a house and she's closing on this date. And I'm like, what? No, like, not a condo. And so my concern right away, and I just told you about this tonight. Well, no, I texted you about it. It wasn't fearful, but the first thought that went through my head was, well, that's not Jenny's house. Like, God is holding this other house for Jenny. And Jenny's getting squirrely and trying to manufacture this miracle. She's just so anxious and eager. Have you ever done this before? You're just so anxious and eager to get anything that's yours. Anything that's even a semblance of an answer to that prayer, that you're willing to compromise, that you're willing to take second best. Any of those things. So that's what my concern was for her, that she was settling, that she was rushing into this, that she was compromising, and just she got squirrely. I use that term a lot. And so immediately I went to praying about that, and I said, here's my prayer. And I text her this when I prayed it. I said, first things first, God, like, if my discomfort or concern or whatever over this situation is me being selfish, if it's me not wanting Jenny to move out, wanting Jenny to be closer, whatever. If any of this is just coming from me and it's me being selfish, take it away. Just take it away. But if you really do want her to have this house and she really is making a quick decision, make it fall through. Don't let it happen. And you guys, like, we're in the middle, like, this is real life. Like, we are in the middle of this right now. Like, her closing is Wednesday. So if you guys want to stand in agreement with us, if this is not the house that God wants Jenny to have right now,
don't let it happen.
Don't let it happen. Something will happen.
That's what I said. I said, because I'm like, all right, so now I'm at a point in my life where I need something. So maybe I'll start praying. Maybe I'll start believing. So, like, this is easier on me. So I said, all right, let me do this one more time, because I need him. If he's going to be there, I need him. Right. So I will start praying. If this condo is not for me, don't let it happen.
Right.
I said, for some reason, on Wednesday, I can't show up. They can't show up. If he doesn't want this to happen, then, hey, God, let it happen.
Yeah, the bank could have a delay. Yeah. I mean, there could be all sorts of things.
If you want me to have this house right here, stop this.
Right. And so
and it didn't make me feel better, because I'm that person who needs somebody to tell me, like, hey, it's going to be okay. And the two people that, like, I look like I'm living with, I always get their confirmation, and they're going, you're moving into the wrong house. And I'm crying on the couch.
No, you are, like, maybe you just need to think about this. And so, and again, like, you guys, like, I don't have all the answers. Like, I'm in a place where I'm going, like, this is what I feel, but maybe that is just from me. Maybe that isn't from God. I don't know.
I felt really good about moving into this place.
Right. And so that's all I can say to Jenny. It's like, maybe this is just me, but this is what I think and feel. And Barry had the same thinking and feeling, which makes me think maybe that's not coincidence. But
then I said, all right, if I believe in God, then I believe in Satan.
Right.
So I was like, all right, do I feel so wonderful about this other condo? Because Satan's just like, God has another plan.
Right.
But look how nice this condo is.
Right.
Come on, move on in. You'll have all the time to yourself, drinking wine and your no pants.
Nobody likes pants.
Nobody likes pants. That's
the
thing.
Hashtag real talk. Nobody likes pants. Number one rule.
I was so excited about not wearing pants and drinking wine.
So we're having that conversation about, hey, like, is this something that you're trying to force, and maybe this isn't what God has for you, and maybe, and so I'm praying for that. And so what I prayed not only was, hey, stop it if this isn't for Jenny, because here's what I know, and this is what I was talking to God about, that there will when we act outside of God's will, when we take on things of our own, there are consequences. And so my second part of my prayer was, God, if she is making this decision on her own, protect her from those consequences. Just don't make her have to go through that. Just make it fall through so she doesn't have to go through that stuff. And then, I feel like there was another part of the prayer. Protect you. Oh, and then the final part of the prayer was, just like I've kind of already talked about, that, hey God, if Jenny does do this and it's not your will and she's just acting on her own, I know that you can bring good out of this condo anyway. That even if this isn't your perfect will for her, even if this isn't exactly what you were saving for her and holding for her and the perfect gift that you wanted to give her, that you can still make that condo great, that you can still make that situation great, and it's going to be awesome and you can redeem it, because that's what he does. And so that was my prayer, and so I told her that, and here we are. The closing's on Wednesday, so that's where we're at. But then Jenny's telling me that we hadn't really been able to have like a good, like, our chat sessions, a really like a heart-to-heart, like, good conversation over the last probably month, kind of when all this was going on. And so we had that talk tonight. I wish we had just pushed record earlier tonight, you guys, because the conversation was real good. But anyway, I mean, we just talked about so many things, and I didn't know that you were where you were at with your faith, and that you were struggling with
because the last time she saw me, I was reading all the books she recommended, like, to help me become closer to God, and yeah, he wasn't working out for me. Right.
So yeah.
But, and then I also, speaking to one of my friends, I told him that I was struggling, and he was supportive that, don't give up on that if that's what helps you in your life. Because I said I need something to lean on, and maybe that's why people start believing in God. I don't know the reason where you're at, but that's what I needed. I needed somebody to be there for me.
Right.
And that's why I decided to say hi to God. Mm-hmm. So now he doesn't feel like, I don't feel like he's there for me. So, I don't know. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I'm in a I don't know place.
And that happens. So one of the things that I said to Jenny earlier tonight was, what I know is when you're in that place where you're struggling with, do I even believe in you? Do I even want to believe in you? Do I just feel foolish that I've believed in you in the past? And one of the things you said is, I don't know if I've ever heard from God. And I said, no, Jenny, remember, let's not forget the times that you do know that you've heard from God. And there was one specific story that we talked about where you very, very clearly, to this day that was God talking to you. But was that the only time?
So that was 17 months ago.
Yeah, yeah. And so how do you know when it is God and those type of things? And again, I wrote the simple answer for that is you get to know God more in whatever ways that looks like. So spending time with Him in prayer, in His Word, whatever. But it's just like, think about that question from more like a real life perspective. Like, how do you get to know anybody more? By spending more time with them. And then you'll know their voice. You'll know what they would say about things. And you'll know them. And so that's the short answer for that. That's kind of what the blog talks about. But anyway, so one of the things that I said to Jenny is I said, well, Jenny, you and I hadn't been able to talk. And it's really, really, really important that you understand that not every time that God talks to you in life is He talking directly to you. And that a lot of times, God talks to us through other people. I just told a story about that on my blog. My most recent blog post was about God giving me very specific words through another lady, through that brunette, petite woman from Oklahoma. And I don't know if Gwen's on here, but anyway, so sometimes God talks to us through other people. So like I said, like the way that Barry and I were thinking and feeling about that house, maybe that was God trying to talk to you in those times you're asking Him, talk to me. Well, we knew those things and we weren't communicating. So
that didn't make me feel any better.
I apologized to her. Hey, I apologize that I wasn't more diligent and adamant in making sure that I had those conversations with you. So that's on me. But when I was telling her that story, it made me think of another time in my life, just to kind of drive that point home about how, God doesn't always talk directly to you. Sometimes He talks to you through other people. Guys, we have 10 minutes left of our hour. We may go way over tonight. So if you have to get off and go to bed. I get it. Or we'll try. I don't know if we'll try to wrap this up anytime soon. We could probably wrap it up in the next 10 or 15. So anyway, but I told her this story about this situation that I had, and this is dated 2012, and I have this letter that hangs on my desk in my office, and I also keep a copy in my planner, so I see it as often as I want to. And this is a situation in 2012 when somebody that we knew, a friend of a friend, was really struggling financially, and she didn't have a job at the time, so she was about to lose her place, basically. She needed rent money, and so we felt really called to give her a gift of money, and so we did, and we did it anonymously. But then she kind of figured out who it was, not from like God revealed to her who it was, and so then she wrote this letter and sent it to my friend, who then got it to me. And so I read this to Jenny because for me, like you guys, again, I'm not perfect in any of this, so there are certainly times that I struggle too, and I question, do I really hear from God? And so this is a letter that I keep in front of me that I can remind myself that I do. And so she says some other things, but then she says, so yes, I certainly know that this is a gift from the Lord, of course, but please don't overlook your own growth in this gesture. When I was talking to God on the way home, I felt very strongly that he spoke to me about you. Yes, even not knowing for sure who you were. I wanted to share with you what I heard and saw. Please receive it as God encouraging and loving on you. I was imagining you writing that check and God watching it all unfold. I saw him just beaming as he looked at you. I saw him saying, "That's my girl. You're doing exactly what I would have done in this moment. I'm so proud of you. You're just like your daddy." From that image, I felt like he wanted to remind you that he is proud of you, that he is pleased with the woman you are and the growth you have gone through. He's absolutely so proud of you. He wants you to know that he knows your heart is for him and he sees you. He sees your hard work and your obedience. He knows that you want to obey. Also, you hear from God. Don't doubt that. You and the Lord are one. Your heart is his heart, and you are learning to follow his lead. I also kept hearing the phrase pure heart over and over as a descriptor of you. You have a pure heart. There is nothing selfish in you. That is not who you are and who you were created to be. You are his loving daughter with a pure, kind heart that desires to obey and does, and makes him beam with pride when he looks at you. Even when you are sleeping and doing nothing, you make him happy. So you guys, that's something, this is a letter that somebody wrote. These are God's words that somebody gave to me 5 years ago. And this is something that I have held on to for 5 years when I need a reminder that yes, I really do hear from God. And so what I was explaining to Jenny was that, and you know, you hear this all the time in church, and I know our church, Crossroads, talks about it all the time. Community, 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 and you need community and faith, and da-da-da-da. And like, what does that even really mean and look like and all the things? But like, this was a very real life example of it, that you've got to be intentional about keeping people in your life who can speak God's words back to you when you're in a season where you feel like you can't hear them yourself. Or it doesn't even have to be, like, God uses other people to talk to you, period. And so you need to make sure that you've got those people who are in that place to receive and pass that to you. So that's that. Is there anything else we're going to talk about on that before I tell the end of my story? I feel like there was so much more that we touched on. Because
I always could insert my doubt or my where I'm wavering. Mm-hmm. That's what we kept bouncing back and forth with.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, so then one of the things...
Go ahead.
Yeah, no. So one of the things that I said to Jenny was, Jenny, because she got emotional and she said, you know, I'm just a person who doubts often, and that I find myself doubting. And I said, Jenny, you're not alone in that. It's very normal to doubt as a Christian, and that's okay. God's not mad at you for that. He's not running away from you for that. And that's what I know is that's exactly the time that God is going to show up, and he's going to speak to you in whatever way that looks like. I don't know if it's going to be through a book. I don't know if it's going to be through another person. I don't know if it's going to be through an audio. I don't know if it's going to be in your own head. I don't know what way that's going to be, but I know that's exactly the time that he shows up, because he sees you and he hears you and he knows that that's your heart and he knows where you're at. And so I have faith in that. But another thing that we talked about was, and I think I already said this, but like fear and doubt too. So like if I have fearful thoughts, then immediately the enemy comes and he says, oh, you should have bigger faith in this. Like you shouldn't be fearful. You shouldn't have doubts.
Yeah.
You should have more faith in that. You should, whatever. And so he puts that guilt and that condemnation on you. And I have heard Joyce Meyer say several times that you're always going to have fear. You're always, like there is always going to be fear come against you. And that's normal. And so for me, I needed to hear that. I needed to know that wasn't me not being good enough, that when fear still comes, then I'm in a position that I know that I can fight against it, that I can reject it. But it doesn't make me in the wrong or bad or not good enough when fear comes still, or when doubt comes still. And that's okay. So yeah, we talked a lot about that stuff. So the end of my story, you guys. So I went through all that stuff. I broke down on New Year's Day, New Year's Eve. Lots of shouting, lots of F-bombs, lots of anger. And I mean, you guys, like, it was not like immediate did I get an answer from there. But I said in my blog, so I wrote 3 different blogs about this. I wrote one called Deserts, one called The Year God Stopped Talking to Me, and then one called Things I Learned in 2015. And one of the things I said in The Year God Stopped Talking to Me is, this would be the perfect opportunity. What would make this story really great is if God audibly boomed in my living room like, oh, Rachel, ye of little faith, I am still here for you. But that's not what happened at all. And it was still another couple months before I really got any clarity on that outcry. And so what happened was, see, back in 2015, when I was finishing up my manuscript, a friend of mine helped me. So chapter 4 of my book is, there's a big section in there about combating the lies in your mind. And so in that, I had all these negative, toxic thoughts that I had, and I wanted to then go get scriptures that combated all of those. So I enlisted the help of my friend Gaynell to help me do that. And so she brought and gave me the Complete Personalized Promise Bible for Women. I've talked about that before on these videos. And so we used that to come up with those things. And so I had gotten a copy of that book myself. And so, I mean, this is after January in 2015, so probably mid-January. I was sitting in the bath upstairs because a lot of times when I was having a painful episode, soaking in a hot bath with some Epsom salts would help at least relieve some of the tension in my back. So I was sitting in there and I thought, well, I'll just open up this book and I'll look up some healing scriptures and confessions and I'll just start using those. And that's what I plan to do. But I just kind of flipped to page 1 of the book and it really sucked me right in. It was exactly what I needed to hear in the minute. But then as I started reading through over the next few days, it was just within a few days, I read one of the passages was Paul writing to the church in Thessalonica. So it's in Thessalonians. And what Paul said was, I urge you, brothers, to stand firm and hold on to, I should have it written down. But anyway, stand firm and stand strong. I don't remember the exact words, and it doesn't matter. But stand firm in the words that have been sent to you by, here it is. I'm sorry. So then, brothers, stand firm and hold on to, the teachings passed on to you, whether by word of mouth or by letter. I don't know if you guys just had the same revelation that I had, but the minute that I read that, I went, oh, this is a letter that Paul is writing to the church in Thessalonica. So here I am, I'm waiting for God to speak to me audibly or in my head or whatever. I'm waiting on him to speak to me in these different ways. And the Bible is literally God's words. Like God wrote down a bunch of crap 2,000 years ago for me to read. Plenty of his words out there for me to get from him right now. And I wasn't looking for them in the right place. And it was just so funny to me. It just hit me like, oh, like these are God's words. And so I'm screaming at God, talk to me, talk to me, talk to me. And he's like, got quite a bit of stuff down there for you. You might want to check out. And so it was, in retrospect, like, and I learned it at the time. Immediately, I had that revelation of, oh, like I have been asking God to talk to me, and I haven't been looking in a place where His Word is there for me. And so I really started diving into His Word. And I explain this in the blog, is that up to that point in my Christian walk, I hadn't done that, you guys. Like, here I am, like, teaching about God and writing a book about God, and I wasn't reading the Bible. Like, understand, like I said, I grew up in church, and I had read all kinds of passages from the Bible. I had tried reading all the way through it several times in my life, unsuccessfully, mind you. And then, like, whenever I would deal with something in life, I would turn to, like, the concordance in the back or whatever and try to look up and, like, oh, heartbreak or what. I'd look up at the scriptures on that, and for whatever reason, like, nothing. Like, it would never turn, like, I would go read the scripture and be like, yep, that doesn't apply to me at all. That was not helpful. And so I had just kind of turned away from that. So I found other ways to get answers from God and to hear from God other than in His Word. And then, again, like where God was trying to move me, like, it's going to be important for me to know and understand and be reading the Bible. And so, what God was teaching me through that season, through all of that with my gallbladder, was He was trying to teach me how to hear from Him and look from Him and look for Him in His Word, and to get filled up that way by Him. And so I did, and that's something that's still really helpful for me today, obviously. And so a book that really helped me with that, it's by Jen Wilkin. It's called Women of the Word. How to Study the Bible with Both Our Hearts and Our Minds. And it's pretty little, but what I love about it is it really breaks down, like, real nitty-gritty practical stuff, like how to study, like when you start studying a book, first, before you even start reading it, like, break down, like, who was this written to? When was it written? What's the purpose of the book? So that way you're reading it in the right frame of mind. Well, I'd never done that before. And so you glean so much more when you understand the context within it was written, and then you're not taking things out of context, which is also very important. So that book's really helpful. Friends recommended this to Barry. I haven't read it, but he started reading it. How to Study the Bible for Yourself by Tim LaHaye. That's what they recommended. It was really helpful for them to learn how to do that. So maybe check that out. Also, something that's helping me kind of make my way through God's Word and really dig into prayer right now, coming out of the Circle Maker, Mark Batterson wrote another book called Draw the Circle. It's a 40-day prayer challenge. I just finished this, and it was wonderful. Both of those books I felt like were just success story after success story after success story of just prayer success stories. And so it really built up my faith and encouraged me to dig into that more. And just believe that when I pray, I am going to get answers. And what he talks about in the book is, and maybe you've heard about this before, is the I got nothing. It's the RE activating system, RAS. So it's some system in your brain that that makes you, it like puts things together in your brain. Let me put it that way. So, for example, you've probably heard this before, that, okay, so when you buy a new car, like before you got that car, you've never seen another one of those cars on the road, but once you buy it, then that's all you see is that car. That's that thing at work in your brain, the RAS. And so that principle works with prayer and with God's Word and with seeing God work in your life, that the more you're studying those things, that you're reading about the goodness of God, that you are journaling your prayers so that you can actually see when He answers, is one of the things that Mark Batterson talks about in that book. Is a lot of times when we pray for something, we just pray for it one time and we put it out of our heads and we don't think about it again. So then when God answers, we don't have that acknowledgement. We don't see that He answered in our life and that was Him, and we just pass it off as luck or coincidence or whatever. And so that was something that I encouraged Jenny to do, is, hey, make sure you start journaling your prayers so you can look back and see at how faithful God has been, and it activates that system in your brain so that you start seeing that all around you. You start seeing all the ways that God is working and active and real and tangibly making things happen in your life. And so I encourage you to do that as well.
Yeah, because that was my rebuttal to my well, that's just probably my positivity. That's my positivity coming out.
Yep.
But taking more steps, different steps. Well, first and foremost, if you're in this place and you have questions for Rachel, she's great to go to. Not that like I'm this, oh yes, now I believe in everything.
Right.
But it is helpful for somebody else to give you ideas, or, she said she went to read in the Bible. That's something I wouldn't do.
Right.
But she usually has something helpful for, hey Jenny, start with this. Gosh, where was I going with that? But the positivity thing, yeah, I see all the positive things. Yeah. But yeah, that was praying on it over and over again. Mm-hmm. Yes, that was very helpful, so that I can see, like, yes, that's what manifested from that. Right. So I would encourage you guys to ask Rachel any questions.
Yes, seriously. You guys are connected with me. You can ask questions on here. I've seen you guys commenting. I haven't seen anybody really ask questions yet, I don't think. My husband and I think the same things a lot. That's cool. Jane is commenting all over the place because she's awesome. Okay, so no questions. So feel free to connect with me afterwards. This is real life, guys. Like, I get, again, like how I started the video, like, this sucks and it hurts and it's hard, and when you're going through those things, you do need those people who can speak God's words back to you. So if you need me to be that person, I'm here for you.
I know what I was thinking, because I was like, yeah, why would I keep praying and not getting results? That's like going to the gym and eating healthy and never getting in shape.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah. So that's one thing, yes, I know that I need to be more diligent with, because I start and then I stop, and then I start and I stop. So yeah, I'm not, if I want to see answers, that's my next step.
Right.
Or get answers.
And, well, yeah, and also too, like, just holding on and waiting and not trying to manufacture the answers. Yeah. So that's good. So to wrap up real quick, I just think this will be a good ending, because I don't really know how else to wrap up, and it feels uncomfortable to just be like, all right, peace, we're done. So I'm gonna read.
Walk out.
All right, and I have cupcakes to eat. Jenny brought me a cupcake from a baby shower she went to today. That's what I'm looking forward to. So I will wrap up. This will just be a good ending, and then we'll say goodnight for now. And I'll get you guys the date for next time, Real Talk episode 4. Hey, this will be good. So next time, we're either going to talk about one of two topics. You guys let me know what you want to hear about. So for our next video, which will be in the month of September, we're either going to talk about spiritual warfare. This just got real fast. That's some deep stuff. Or we're going to talk about finding your purpose, and like, how do you find your purpose and know what you're here for, and like, what's all this about? So we can talk about one of those two things. So you let me know which you would rather. So anyway, so to wrap up, I'm just going to read you guys the things I learned in 2015. So coming out of this season, this was probably mid 2016, I wrote that. Oh, and by the way, here's the rest of the story. Like, so you guys know, my gallbladder is 100% totally healed. Like, it's 100% functional, works like it's supposed to. The gallstones are out, no more pain. Awesome, hallelujah, praise Jesus. Healed me.
Spiritual warfare.
We have one vote for spiritual warfare so far. So that's awesome. The other thing, in case you guys don't know, my book came out, so like it actually not until the end of 2016, but in November 2016 I released Now What? A Story of Broken Dreams and the God Who Restores Them. And so all those things that I was waiting on did happen. God answered all of the things that he had promised came to fruition, because that's the way that he works. Like, God answers every prayer, like every single time. Like, it may take a lifetime, but it may not even be in your lifetime. It may manifest in the lives of your children or your offspring, or for generations to come, or whatever. But every prayer is answered. That's something that Mark Batterson talks about over and over and over again. So God is good. He's going to answer. Be patient. Wait on him. These are the things that I learned in 2015. Sometimes God shows up in very real and tangible ways, and it makes you ugly cry. Sometimes God is silent for a long time, and you wonder if you did something wrong or if you deserve it. Other times, God is speaking and we aren't listening correctly. And then sometimes God is speaking to us and we plug our ears and la him away. Whoops. Sometimes the things God prompts us to do are easy and second nature. Sometimes they are daunting or overwhelming or require bravery, but they are always for our best. Always. What he's looking for is our obedience above all else, because he wants to bless us with other things, with more than we can even think of or imagine. Sometimes that's hard to believe, or we just lose sight of that fact. Now, how we handle the little things determines what bigger things he brings into our lives. Sometimes we have to walk through a desert, and it sucks. Sometimes life isn't fair. Sometimes some people are allowed to get away with things that we aren't, and we want to whine about it. Sometimes we do whine about it. It's not our job to play Holy Spirit for people. Sometimes God is working on things in people that he's not working on in you, and vice versa. Let it go. This is between you and God, and that is between them and God. There will be other voices. Listen to God's voice above all the others. And when he's silent, well, you certainly don't abandon the game plan. Go back to the last thing he told you and stand firm. When it feels like you just can't, keep going. Sometimes that's harder than others. Sometimes that makes you want to cuss. And that's totally okay. He gets it. He can handle it. God's not going anywhere. He's right. He is still right beside you, even when you can't feel him or see him or hear him. Hold on to that. Find peace and comfort in that truth. This too shall pass, because sometimes when you least expect it, God shows up in very real and tangible ways, and it makes you ugly cry, and everything will be all right again. So we will talk to you guys next month. Thanks for joining us. We've had fun. Talk to you soon.
Good night.
It's not working.